Hey guys, welcome to SIC SIPs. Today we're going to be talking about questions that you should ask as an end user when 5 years are being completed at your facility and the burden that you guys are taking on when these inspections are happening. So tune in. We would love for you guys' comments as building owners, as end users or facility managers. We'd love to hear your experiences with this too. So please tune in and enjoy the video.
Right. And I think what's important for our listeners, just in case you're like kind of lost in this this depth of conversation we're having, the questions that you should be asking are like, what is being inspected? What is required, actually, is a better question first. And then even just asking your contractor, like, hey, like, are you doing my cross mains and my branch lines? Are you like what does your assessment look like? Not to try and catch them in the act. We're not trying to be these like, we're not whistleblowers by any means, but we're just trying to say like your building, the only time that this is ever done is on a 5-year cycle. There's no other test that I'm aware of, at least. Chad, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no other test that looks for corrosion and obstruction in a sprinkler system. We've had too many systems. Even recently, there have been buildings caught fire that have burned down, and the comment has been from the AHJ, the system didn't activate, or it failed to put out the fire to control it like it was supposed to. And that's a problem. That's like that's why this is so important. Sid, what do you got?
Well, so I was going to say, I would say the only thing I could think of that people would say that counts as a potential 5-year can suffice for it is a flow test. But again,
standpipe flow test, yeah.
A standpipe flow test. But again, like that's just checking the function of the system. It's not checking the integrity of the system. It's saying, hey, it flows, that's great, but we don't know if it's obstructed. It could be obstructed, and they can say, well, it's 10% or 15% slower than what it should be, so we know that there's something blocking. Okay, that works, but again, it's not looking at the integrity, and it's just reacting to, okay, now this is bad, and it gets back into reactive maintenance. Wow, we're full circle again.
Sure, yeah. and that also, that flow test is only going to incorporate into the standpipe. You still have your floor control valve sectional systems where the actual piping that's going to put out a fire. Yeah, the supply is a main concern, but if your piping that feeds the sprinkler heads and the branch lines and the sprinkler heads that put out the fire obstructed or not even being tested, what it does you no good just to rely on your flow test as your hey, this is operational, this is good to go.
Well, Chad, you make a good point, and this is actually, sorry, Sid, I'm going to cut you off, but there's a stipulation in the code that says, and it's only technically for dry systems, but it's important to state that basically if you're doing a flow test or a trip test, they'll call it for dry systems, and there's usually a drain at the end of the system, and you've got to try and inspect the branch line adjacent to that, because that's technically the furthest point of the system where there's no way for that water to go anywhere, and that's where your obstruction is most likely to occur. And so there are stipulations in the code looking to address some of these things, but it's first of all, it's not for wet systems. There's not a stipulation like that for a wet system in the code. And secondly, it doesn't account for what about the second or third branch lines that are adjacent to that inspector test valve. They might also have obstruction material. Like there are just so many, like it's the balance of not trying to burden the end user with too much cost, which is a real thing. It can't just, require you to spend $1 million every 5 years or whatever the number would be. But like, we do have to assure compliance. And that's something that like a non-invasive sonic inspection, we can test multiple areas a lot more cleanly, a lot more quickly with like less disruption to the end user.
Yeah. Well, and again, like it comes back to no matter whether you use us or a fire contractor for visual or video, like, because those are really the only 3 inspections you can get. We talked about ultrasound and how there's different types of ultrasound that don't work for internal investigations. And so when we look at this, like for the 5-year compliancy, it's really just looking at the components required by NFPA, which is that it's a riser, cross main, branch line that get inspected. And so no matter what, whether you have a sonic inspection, a visual inspection, or a video inspection, you're going to get an assessment of the riser, the cross main, and the branch line. And that's just the minimal compliancy side of it. So I think when you were talking about wanting to do, well, what about the second branch line, the third branch line, the fourth? I think that's where, we have to, or building owners have to leverage, well, do I want to know more integrity of my system, or do I just want to have minimal compliancy? So it's like, do I just want to, and that's their decision. It's their risk, their liability. And I think.
Hey guys, thank you for tuning in and watching that video. We hope that you guys found that educational and informative. This next video that we discuss is going to be the liability that falls on end users when fire sprinkler systems are in their building. And so I hope that you guys tune in on that one. It's something that's near and dear to my heart. We find it not often talked about. So you guys can see it on Thursday. We'd love to hear you guys' comments below. Drop something below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. See ya.